provide this. Can you all see that? Can you see the presentation there?
Yes, we
Developing. Can you see it?
Yes, yes, we do.
Okay, so you can see it. Okay, brilliant. All right, awesome. Well, guys, once again, thank you for the opportunity today. I really do appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you guys about business pitching and really mastering the art of going out there and selling yourself and obviously your business. That's equally important. So just to quickly add on a little bit more about BizHQ. Really, we are a business coaching and executive coaching company. We've been around since 2012, and really our core purpose and focus is about helping leaders in businesses, irrelevant really of where they are, whether they're small, medium, or large companies, to grow those leaders, and then ultimately by helping the leaders grow, we help the businesses ultimately grow. Our core purpose really is about, letting businesses take the owners of those businesses to whatever place it is, whether it's the side of a soccer field or whether it's to, go multinational. It's really to help these guys move on in their lives. So I do something called fusion coaching. So fusion coaching is really a combination of all different types of coaching. So it's a mixture of business coaching, leadership coaching, executive coaching, life coaching, personal coaching. We throw in a little bit of consulting. We also do some execution type based coaching. It's team coaching, it's group coaching. So the world has changed so much that I don't personally believe that you can just have one type of coach anymore. You can't just have a business coach. You need a person or a set of coaches who have a unique set of skills, from behavioral work skills all the way through to dealing with business and leadership. So really we sort of have tried to term that type of coaching fusion coaching, because I really think that is the way of the future. And to be honest, there's so much information out there that when you start looking at businesses, there's really two things they've got to do. The one is they've got to focus on behavior. And the second thing that they need to do is they need to start focusing obviously on the type of activity in the business. And, there's never a business that fails due to any real reason other than the business owner or the entrepreneur or whoever is running the business. So a lot of the work that we do is on that behavioral side. How do we get you to think differently? And you'll see here the whole yin yang concept for us is about taking the world view that we've got and reframing that worldview for you in a way that allows you to see the world differently and to do things differently and behave differently. Because unfortunately, sometimes we're our own worst enemies in terms of our own behavior that we put out there into the universe around us. Just briefly, I'm obviously got a life coaching qualification, came out of university. I've got a master's in NLP. I'm a certified coach with the International Coaching Federation. My corporate experience really relates more to banking and investments. So I've actually got a financial background, and I've gone from finance through towards coaching and HR. I was a CIO of an investment company that we actually started that company for one of the banks, Absa Bank. And I then headed up the change portfolio for Absa Financial Services, where I looked after the 12 companies. And a couple of sort of noteworthy things in my life, to be honest. One is I was lucky enough to be the coach for a TV show called The Business Coach. That was a lot of fun. And I was also approached by Google to be the agency coach for South Africa. So that also was a great experience, obviously going to Europe to go and visit Google and all the rest. And yes, one of my bucket list items, I was able to tick it by being on the cover of Entrepreneur magazine. So very excited about that. And then on the right, you'll see my family. Travel is a big thing for me. I love travel. I love cultures. I love food. I love doing a whole host of things. I love experiences. So really that is me in a nutshell. In terms of BizHQ, we currently operate in a variety of countries. We operate in India, we operate in Nigeria, we operate in the DRC. Well, when I say operate, we've got clients, Zimbabwe, Botswana. We've got an actual business set up in Botswana and obviously South Africa. And the type of people that we're working with, as I mentioned, it's broad. So we're working with real startups, guys, looking at how getting concepts right for them. I've been working with acceleration in Botswana. We'll be working with a lot of the small guys at the Botswana Innovation Hub. And also we're doing incubation in South Africa and SME and some corporate work. So really just in a sort of nutshell, that is BizHQ and myself, just to add to the context for you. But I think really today, okay, for me, and the purpose of today's webinar is I want to give you guys a different perspective on pitching. There is so much information out there on pitching that if you go and Google it, you're going to find reams and reams and reams of information. What I want to try and do today for you is, I wanted you to understand some of the core concepts and structures that sit behind pitching. And a lot of that's got to do with behavior. A lot of that's got to do with putting yourself in a different place, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes more so, and also understanding your own sort of worldview and somebody else's worldview. So I really want to give you a totally different slant on pitching today, and hopefully it's going to, give you guys some blinding flashes of the obvious, as we call it, the BFOs, and so you guys can take away some good learnings. So I think one of the first things really that I want to put out there today is we can look at all this pitching content out there, and a lot of it is the same. A lot of it is the same, and a lot of people have the mindset, well, I've read the book, I've seen this before, I've done this before, and what is going to be different here? So I want you guys firstly just today to be a little bit more open to this, sort of open up your arms and open up your minds a little bit to say, well, let me take on something different. Maybe Greg's going to give me something today that I've heard, but it might be differently, and maybe it will sort of sink into my brain slightly. But really, if you want to be successful at pitching, okay, you've got to have this mindset of, isn't that interesting? Okay, you can't have a closed mindset in order to do that. And more importantly, if you want to be good at pitching, you've got to be able to step out of your own worldview and step out of your own mindset and put yourself in the mindset of the person who actually is going to be buying from you. Okay, you see, pitching isn't about selling you, it's about getting someone to buy what you've got on the table. And that's the important concept. So if we look at the person who's actually going to buy from you, and we ask ourselves the question, how do we disassociate from ourselves and put ourselves in someone like that shoes? You first need to understand where that person sits and where they've come from. And for me, this is a critical criteria here. So if you look at this entrepreneurial elevator in front of you here, we've got from 1 to 6, and I'd imagine you could probably add on a 7 or 8. If you're not employed, maybe you would be a 7 sort of sitting beneath it. But the important reason I've sort of put this slide up for you today is, if you are looking for funding for an idea, or even if you've got a small business and you're self-employed and you're looking for funding for that, you need to understand and call it what it is. This concept of entrepreneurialism and being an entrepreneur, I personally believe is being thrown around too much. We need to be honest about who we are and what we are doing. Okay. If we look at the right at the top here, an entrepreneur is an individual who creates money with other people's ideas in the network. So that is what an entrepreneur is. We need to understand that in order to be an entrepreneur means that you've gone through a whole process of working for someone, leaving that job, becoming self-employed, deciding that you're going to hire someone to do the work because you're tired of doing that work, getting to a point where you've outgrown that business and you now put somebody into it to run it for you. So you own that business and you make your money from the profits. From that point, moving on to the next level, which is now, well, I'm actually going to invest in multiple businesses and then start trading at the higher level there. So I first want you guys to understand that the people that you're dealing with, okay, have been through that process. All right. So part of you mastering a pitch is about taking yourself out of wherever you are on this elevator and about putting yourself in the shoes of somebody who is possibly an investor or possibly an entrepreneur. And what that requires, though, is it requires you to fully say, well, this is not about me. This is about somebody else. And this is about understanding what that other person is looking for. And so often I find that people who are going into pitches are more worried about themselves than are about the person that they're trying to get to invest in their business. They get so caught up in themselves that they actually forget why they're there. They're there to help that particular individual on the other side of the table buy a product. And that person is looking for a particular type of behavior, and that person is looking for a particular set of information and types of information so that they can make a decision in the shortest period of time. All right, so for me, it's important that you guys understand where you are on this ladder and call it what it is, you know? If you're looking for funding so you can hire a team, well, then you're going to be a manager of your business. Accept that that's where you are, and understand that you've still got a long way to go, and put yourself in the shoes of the person above you the whole time if you want to advance to those next levels. So for me, probably the big differentiator between people who succeed at pitching and people who don't is a very simple question of, some of them have a personal dream and a purpose, and those who typically don't have a personal purpose and a dream, often I find are not as successful in pitching. And why do I say this? Well, generally, if you have a purpose that gets you up in the morning, you're going to be a lot more resilient and a lot more focused and a lot more passionate and a lot more excited about the work that you're doing than somebody who doesn't have a personal purpose, who's just looking for some money to make ends meet. We tend to find that a person who has a personal purpose will take their business and will align their business into that purpose. And that then makes them a lot more attractive to the people around them. They're a lot more positive. And what we know about positive people is they tend to attract more positive people into the environment. If you've got a personal purpose that this business is going to work or link into, if you get a no at a pitch, it's highly likely you're going to go back into the market and go and find somebody else to pitch to. People who don't have that personal purpose, at the first no they get, they turn around and they walk away. So for me, right up in the beginning of whatever process you guys are looking at, make sure that you know what it is that you want for yourself in life and how this business or these ideas or whatever it is that you're going to do fit into that dream of yours. Because it's going to make you a lot happier and a lot nicer person, and it's not just going to be about the money. It's going to be about a bigger cause. And that's what, in terms of the law of precession, it's not about the money, it's about what we do to get and help and serve that gets us the income at the end of the day. So really, that's the first concept I want you guys to understand. The second concept I want you to think about links into, when is this business of yours finished? And I need to be honest with you, I don't know if I've actually met too many people who've been able to answer this question, specifically when guys are in a going concern. But if you ask yourself the very simple question, like, when is this business of mine going to be finished? What it's going to do for you is provide a lot of clarity on some of your next steps in terms of how you're going to take this business of yours forward. And it's going to make your life considerably easier when you're having a conversation with a potential investor, when the person starts asking questions of you. So tell me about my ROI. And when they ask you the question, when is your business finished? You're going to have thought through that process quite clearly. And you're going to have clarity of when the end zone is. And the end zone could be you're listing the company, you're selling the company. You know, I was talking to an entrepreneur the other day, a young guy, and he just wants to disrupt the market until the big boy buys him out. And I'm saying, well, good for you. That's your purpose. And that's your end goal. Okay. Well, then let's put a peg in the ground and decide what that date's going to look like. And let's put a peg in the ground and understand what needs to be done in order to get that particular organization to buy you. Okay, obviously you have to offer a good product and service too. But what's important here is understand what you are trying to create, because it's going to mean that you're going to ask yourself different questions, and it's going to allow you to build a far deeper and far more resilient business plan and business case for you to talk through. Now, talking about building these business cases and plans, you know, one of the other things I find interesting when I talk to a lot of young budding business people and entrepreneurs for today is a lot of them have a lot of the information about their business and their plans in their or their goals in their head. Okay, they don't actually write it down. Now, there was a study done, I think it was 1980 odd, and it was done with one of the Harvard Business Review groups, Harvard Business, I think it was a business division or something, one of the programs they did there. But they did a survey with these guys who were graduating, and they asked them simply, how many of you have written goals and plans? And of the class, only 3% of the people had written plans, 27% had verbal goals, and some of them had like a verbal plan. 70% of them literally had nothing. It was just vapor. Okay, they kind of thought about it on a day-to-day basis. So what was interesting is that they got this group together, and 10 years later, they did another survey. But the survey this time was to ask the question, where does the wealth sit in the room? And what was interesting is that 98% of the wealth from that room, okay, sat with that 3% of the people who had written goals and written plans. So as much as a plan is a pain in the backside to write sometimes, okay, it's important to put it down there because visually you get to see it, all right? You get to take it to people to get them to critique it for you. But if it sits in your head, it's just vapor, all right? And the more critique you're gonna have on something, the better it is. And when you visually can see something, well, you can do something with it, you can create. We can then suck into our creative juices to start building on that particular plan. So make sure that everything that you're trying to achieve is documented. Because if it's documented, you can delegate something or you can get somebody in to help you. But when it's in your head, sadly, you're destined to do it all yourself, which is not really good leverage in your life. So let me take you through this formula that I call the formula for success. So the formula for success really is probably one of the most simple formulas in life. It goes as follows. It says be times do equals have. Okay, so quite simply put, if you want to have a lot, well, you've got to do a lot and you've got to be a lot. Okay, in that example there, if I want to have that six-pack, that stomach on the right under above results, well, I'm going to have to do a lot of exercise, probably have to stop eating as well, all the rubbish. But then I'm going to have a certain type of behavior that goes along with that sort of body, which means I'm going to have to be disciplined. Okay, very disciplined. I'm going to have to get my head right about who I think I am. I'm going to have to relook at my identity. Okay, so really this be, do, have formula for me really is the key driving concept in life. So if you want to have a person buy into you, or if you want to have an investor give you money, which is the have, well, you've got to ask yourself the question, what do I need to do and who do I need to be? Quite simply put. And the do, to be honest with you, is not the hard part. The do is the easy part. You can go onto the internet now and you can Google the do, and you will find thousands of sites and thousands of pages of information about what everyone's perspective is of the do. And the do is really making sure you got your numbers and everything correct. Okay. The be is where people stumble and where, unfortunately, in my opinion, 95% of pitching goes wrong. But let me take you through this formula in a little bit more detail. And we're going to start with the do of this, with the action, just so you guys can have a look at it. So some of you may have heard of this Beckhard-Harris change formula. I'm not certain if you guys have or haven't there, but the Beckhard-Harris change formula talks to a very simple concept. It says that we start off with a level of resistance to anything. Okay, now if we want to overcome that resistance, we've got to firstly be dissatisfied. Okay, because if we're not dissatisfied with where we are, then we're not going to do anything about it, quite simply put. Okay, so, people who are not dissatisfied about their weight will not lose weight. Okay, if you're not dissatisfied with your salary, you're not going to ask for more salary. So dissatisfaction plays a very large part in you making or breaking your level of resistance. On the other side of the coin, he then says, well, there's a level of dissatisfaction, but there's also a vision. So you can be as dissatisfied as hell and very unhappy with your life. But if you don't have a vision of what you want to be and where you want to go, well, then you're going to stay exactly where you are, And so I think if we start looking at a lot of relationships that people are in, one party in that relationship might be very dissatisfied, but they don't have a vision of themselves outside of that relationship. which means they stay in that relationship. And they will stay there forever until such a time as that one day they create that vision of who they want to be external to that relationship. And then the third step kicks in, which is obviously first steps. And, if I'm using the relationship analogy, it will be somebody saying, well, I'm going to go to a lawyer, or I'm going to pack my bags and leave. And then the first steps are the actual easy side, or the easy part of the process. So if you want to overcome resistance, you've got to have a high level of dissatisfaction. You've got to have a juicy vision, something that you can start salivating about, and you've got to know what those first steps are. So, a lot of people I coach procrastinate. And when I sit with them and I say, well, why are you procrastinating about this? And they say, well, actually, I'm unhappy. I know where I want to go to, but they just don't have the first step. Okay. So for me, this particular resistance formula is key for us to start looking at pitching. So why am I putting this on the table? Because I want you to look at an investor or a potential investor, somebody who's sitting on the other side of the table, as somebody who's got 100% resistance to you. Okay, he's going to find every reason why he doesn't want to work with you. And what your requirement there literally is, one, is to look at the dissatisfaction level, okay, in that market. And you've got to actually explain to this person what that problem is that you are trying to solve. One, okay, so that's the key thing here. You've got to get clarity on that level of dissatisfaction out there, and you've got to get clarity on what that problem is that that individual can then buy into it. Secondly, you've then also got to put on the table the vision, how you are going to actually solve this particular solution. And once you have got that clarity on the table in terms of how you're going to solve this particular problem in the market, then you can discuss, okay, well, now, here are some of the first steps, which could be, here's the planning, here's the strategy, and then we can get into that there. All right, just by the by, this particular formula is what we would call the basic formula for sales. Okay, is when you go out to doing sales, you're going to first find dissatisfaction with somebody, then you're going to create a vision of something that they can get excited about. And then once you've got the dissatisfaction, you link it to the vision, and then you say to them, and to move across this bridge, these are the first steps. All right, so really what we're doing here is we're applying the same formula, okay, for resistance to how do we deal with an investor to get them to get excited about your product and or service or solution that you're sharing. So if we dive into the dissatisfaction side there, really what we're saying is, we're trying to fix something. So what are we trying to fix? What is this problem that we're trying to resolve? Now, often, okay, people get the concept wrong of the problem. They try and dive straight into the actual product or solution. Now, what is important when you're pitching to an investor is, you need to make sure that you explain to them, all right, what it is, what are you solving for, all right? Because there are multiple products out there that could solve that, but we need to make sure that we highlight that specifically, okay? And then we can then dive into, well, how do we solve that problem a little bit later? But it's important that we highlight what the problem is, what we're solving for, how that is going to change people's lives, how that's going to change the world, what is the need specifically related to that? And probably equally important, as far as I'm concerned, it's looking at the current status quo. So people are living quite comfortably without this product. Okay, so we need to also accept that. So if they don't have your product, then, or your service, then they've got another solution. So what is the substitute that they're currently using? How is that substitute working for them? If we put this product on there, would the masses buy it, or is it just a sort of a lucky dip that we're going to have? So what is that status quo that exists out there? So for me, these are really the three key things that we have to make sure we spend a lot of time bedding down and putting on the table when we're talking about the problem, okay, and articulating the problem for an investor. So once we've articulated that, okay, now once again, we've now said this is the dissatisfaction side of the formula.
Greg?
Yes.
Hello. I hope that really this is very, very important, and like it's a pleasure for these entrepreneurs to be hearing about like the teaching, because it's very important. And now, like perhaps is that we have had a couple of like about 10 minutes before starting this that we lost. They are waiting for the next session. Maybe if you can wrap up in like 2 minutes, and then the platform can actually continue with this, but on the other session of like marketing your business with a great video pitch, which also immerses the entrepreneurs into a continuity of what you were sharing, but with also another person to share with them about that. I think that would be fantastic. But really, thank you so much for your time and for this very important session. I have to note that we will be sharing with our attendees, with the entrepreneurs, if you allow us, a copy of this presentation so that they can actually dig deeper and learn more. And it's really important to have you, and we thank you so much. And you can use actually some short wrap-up time to actually conclude on what was next on the slide.
Perfect. Okay, I'll literally take 2 minutes then to do that. All right, so really, I think just get this dissatisfaction defined, and then we move on to the vision side, really, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time. A lot of you probably are aware of Simon Sinek. I would go and analyze Simon Sinek Golden Circle and understand really why, okay, your product exists out there in the marketplace, because that's going to be the conversation that you need to have with your investor. Why? Okay, what is the purpose of your product? You know, if you look at Apple's purpose, you know, everything they do, they believe in challenging the status quo. So really understand what that is. Then you can put down your why and the what you're going to do, and then you're going to then dive into the value, obviously, of this. What is the value to the people around you? What's the value to the market? And what's the value going to be to the investor? And then lastly, you're going to be talking about the scalability side, because that's really what they're after. They're after scalability. And then first steps, really, I won't go into a lot of this, but first steps is making sure you've got somebody to put on the table to explain the plan of action, proper quantified assumptions, and, you know, I run the whole sessions on that. Know your critical success factors. Those are your first steps, so you can discuss those. Understand the difference between your lead and your lag KPIs. Very critical there. Know your numbers. Okay, when I work with entrepreneurs, they don't know their numbers. If you're going to go and pitch, you've got to know your numbers. You've got to know how they all fit together. You need to know how they link in. Understand resourcing structures, and then also your ROI. Okay, because somebody is going to invest, wants to make more money they can if they invest in you than if they put it into another business or the bank. So you need to understand how you're going to work your ROI out for them. And then lastly, looking at the B, okay, on the behavioral side now, obviously of the formula, for me, this is really where you guys need to focus your efforts. So if you can take anything from today, it would be this back page, and it's about master your EQ, have a high EQ, understand yourself, understand your limitations, understand your strengths, understand what makes you tick, understand what it's like and how you feel about conflict, how you feel about standing in front of people and getting feedback from them. Be authentic. Don't try to be somebody you're not. Okay, don't go out there and try and be your friend who's a good pitcher. Be yourself, because people buy people, okay? You're not selling your friend. Be a passionate believer about your product and service. You know, believers are the dreamers, and they're the ones that build businesses, and they're the ones that attract people into the life. So be passionate about it, about your product. The clear values and beliefs. If you don't have clear values and beliefs, then you're easily going to be taken for a ride. So make sure you know what you stand for. And it's important this, and make sure you understand what your belief systems are when you're standing in front of an investor, because they're going to challenge them. Okay, they're going to ask you a whole host of questions around your values and beliefs. Make sure you understand that. Know how to build rapport. Okay, there's some courses you can do on that. Be a great storyteller. Make sure that your state and story. So Anthony Robbins has a you know, in his book, he talks about, you know, state, story, strategy. And here I'm talking about the state and the story. Make sure that the story you're putting out there, all right, about yourself and about your business matches what your body's telling. Okay, the state that you're putting out. Have controlled confidence, be prepared, have resourceful agility, okay? And then have a 7 out of 10 locus of control. So what I'm saying there is believe in yourself, know that you can do this, all right, but also accept that you've got limitations. Don't go out there and pretend that you're bulletproof, because you're not, all right? And investors know that. They know that you need to be at least a 6 or 7 out of 10 in terms of locus of control, because that says that you still know that you believe in yourself, but you acknowledge that, you know, you're not some spiritual being out there. Be presentable, knowledgeable, and listen. Okay. The hardest or the worst thing for an investor who wants to invest money is somebody who's more interested in getting their point across. Listen, listen, listen. If you have to, clarify. All right. So even if you have to say to the person, I think this is what you asked, is that correct? And then you answer the question, because make sure you answer the question in their language, in their terms. All right. So guys, sorry about the short rushed end to this. I really hope you guys got something from this. I'll send you a copy of the presentation. And yeah, if anybody needs to get hold of me, please feel free. They're my details. I'll gladly send through information or help you out any way I can. Okay.
Thank you, Greg, for your time. Thank you for blessing us with this wisdom. Definitely, we will reach out to you. And if the entrepreneurs who are here on this platform want to have another time, we will invite you with an ample time to actually talk to them and give them much more wisdom. Guys, entrepreneurs who are on this platform, please move quickly to the next sessions that you have on respective hours. If you sign up for the masterclasses or for the founder talks, you will check various links that lead to your sessions. Thank you so much, Greg. Thank you so much for your time. We'll get in touch. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.